Wisconsin versus Theodore Edgecomb, 20 CF 3535. Appearances.
Grant Jr. for the state.
Theodore Edgecomb appearing in person with attorney Anika Ahmad and Biavi Lamar.
All right, who's the next witness from the defense?
Judge, our next witness is Lorenzo Hernandez.
All right, let's have him come in, put him on the stand. I'll bring the jury in. We can discuss, if necessary, Mr. Black's testimony later, but let's continue and let's have the witness come in, please. Be seated. Yes, the jury's coming in. Please remain seated, silent in the gallery, please. All right, the jury's back. Welcome back, everybody. We'll swear in the witness. Sir, if you can stand and raise your right hand, please.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yeah.
Please be seated. State your full name, spell the first and last for the record, and you may remove your name.
Lorenzo Hernandez Jr., Lorenzo Hernandez Jr.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Officer Hernandez, are you a Milwaukee police officer?
Yes.
And how long have you been a police officer for?
Approximately 4 years.
Approximately 4 years?
Yes, sir.
Prior to that, any other police experience?
No.
Okay, and what are your duties as a police officer for Milwaukee Police Department?
I'm a patrol officer at District 1.
Okay, and can you give us a brief overview of what your duties are, typically?
Typically, patrol the streets, assisting calls for the cities at Citizens Place.
Okay. What are some specific tasks that you may have when it comes to investigations of crime scenes?
We'll respond there. Your first officers will respond to the scene, secure the scene, identify witnesses, identify victims.
Okay. Now I want to turn your attention to September 22nd of 2020. Are you familiar specifically with what case we're referring to in relation to that date?
Yes.
Okay. And is that the case involving the shooting of Jason Cleereman?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us briefly what's your recollection of being dispatched to the scene there that evening?
Yes, sir. So at approximately 8:07 p.m., I was working with Officer Wilbur, Zachariah Wilbur. We were dispatched to a shooting in the area of Brady Street and Van Buren. We responded to the area of the scene, and we saturated the area in the area of the 1700 block on Water Street
Okay.
in attempts to locate a suspect.
All right. Did you have any other responsibilities at that time?
After we checked the area in the 1700 block of Water Street, we went back to the scene on Brady Street and Van Buren, and the sergeant at the time instructed us to do a canvass for video surveillance on East Brady Street.
Okay, and was that sergeant, is it pronounced Gerke?
Sergeant Gerke, correct.
Okay, and that's spelled G-A-U-E-R-K-E, correct?
I believe it's G-U-E-R-K-E.
Okay. All right, so Sergeant Gerke had given you an assignment, is that what you're basically telling us?
Correct.
Okay, and what was the assignment specifically?
To locate video surveillance in the area.
Okay, and how many, well, let me show you what's marked as Exhibit D5, officer. So you mentioned the area. Is this the area that you're referring to, the general area that you were supposed to canvass on September 22nd, 2020?
That is correct.
Okay, so would you agree that this is Brady Street right here?
Yes.
And then as far as Holton, that is right here at the intersection, we have an X marked between Brady and Holton Street, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the canvass, I believe you stated, was to proceed eastward on Brady Street, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it was for how many blocks, do you remember?
I have indicated in my report of where the video surveillance was, we were looking for video cameras in that area.
Okay,
So,
would it refresh your recollection to review your report?
yes, I have it here.
You have a copy of it? Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
So I believe the furthest east is possibly either Regano's on 1004 East Brady Street or Glorioso's. So
Okay, well, let me ask you another question about that, officer. So,
yes,
was your task to canvass an area of 4 blocks from Holton to Humboldt Avenue along Brady Street?
can you answer that question again?
Was the task specifically to go 4 blocks from Holton to Humboldt looking for any surveillance videos?
It wasn't specific to Humboldt. It was to canvass east on Brady Street to look for video surveillance.
Okay, well, would you agree that in your report you indicated that you checked from east of the scene from North Holton to North Humboldt Avenue?
That's correct.
Okay, so it was in fact 4 blocks approximately from Holton to Humboldt. Is that correct?
That's about accurate.
Okay. All right. Now, Council, can you switch to? Madam Clerk, can you switch back to the state's?
Give me evidence control, Judge.
Fine.
Okay, and officer, I'm going to show you exhibits D26 first. Now, this is that same area, would you agree, that we just saw on that large poster board?
Yes.
Pretty much, I mean, fairly accurate representation, just condensed in this exhibit. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 27. Could you describe for us the roads that are depicted here in respect to the area that we were just talking about?
I don't understand your question.
Let me rephrase, bad question. So do you see that we have Holton Street right here in the intersection of Brady?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, I'm going to mark that with a circle. Would you agree that that's the intersection there?
Yes.
Okay, and then going, if I were to go 2 blocks, I would get to, the first block I'd get to is Cass Street. Would you agree that it's right here if I were to place a square?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the intersection of Cass and Brady. And then a second block would be to Marshall Street, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your assignment was to go, would it be fair to say you stopped at around Glorioso's at 1011 East Brady Street that day? As part of your canvas, that is.
For video surveillance, correct.
Okay. And so Glorioso's, that's about 3 blocks east on Brady. I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit D28. Now, does that show the, in the context of what I just shown you, okay? Hold on, let me back up a second. So, D26, this is the area on Brady of those 4 blocks between Holton and Humboldt, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then if we break it up, D27 is the first 2 blocks along Brady, and then D28, would you agree, is the second 2 blocks on Brady. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And now, are you able to see the numbers on that map?
Yes.
Okay. So, going back to D27, you said you were able to canvass an area, would you agree, from 709 East Brady all the way to 1011 East Brady. Is that right?
That's about right. Yes.
Okay. So, 709 East Brady, do you see a 706 and a 708 right here? If I'm where I place my pen?
Yes.
Okay, I know it's very difficult to see that, but are you able to see that from where you're at?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then you proceeded eastbound on Brady, and you went past Marshall Street, right?
Yes, I believe to, yes.
Okay, now officer, this is a small little exercise for you, but would you be able to mark off some of the locations, if you were to come up here and mark off the locations or circle them that you had actually checked for video?
Yes, in reference to my report, I would be able to do that, yes.
Okay, can you do that along these 2 maps here?
Sure. You want me to approach you?
Yes.
Counsel, he doesn't approach council table.
Well, Judge, it's the technological restriction that we have. I can have him point it out on the map then.
Bring it up, have him do it here, or point it out on the map.
Sure. All right, so little exercise for you, officer. If you could circle all the buildings that you had actually conducted, trying to actually retrieve video surveillance from.
I didn't retrieve any video surveillance.
Okay.
I indicated in my report the addresses where I observed video surveillance.
Okay. All right, well, let me rephrase that. Where you noticed video cameras or any sort of recording device, and you documented that in your report. If you could mark those locations on both
Sure.
of those maps.
Can I reference my report?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
All right, you're finished, officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for your patience. Okay, so you've marked D27 and
I circled and
D28.
initialed.
You circled and initialed each one?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with D27, can you explain to us the locations that you had observed surveillance cameras at?
So at East Brady Street in Holton, there was a pole camera there. So I documented that. Glorioso's 1011 East Brady Street, documented that. In my report, I have it on the west side of the building, facing Brady Street. Camera 2 on the north side of the building, also facing Brady Street. Casa Blanca, 728 East Brady Street. The camera was at the front entrance, facing towards the sidewalk area. There's a Ring doorbell, 830 East Brady Street, and also 902 East Brady Street. Restaurant Dynamite, 932 East Brady Street. There's a camera facing the front entrance only. And Regano's at the restaurant, 1004 East Brady Street. And also 1010 East Brady Street. I observed video surveillance, or cameras,
Okay.
at that locations.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking at D27, and then, so some of those locations you had named are marked on that map, and then the rest are on D28, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And just to recap, the task was to find all cameras until you got to Humboldt, right?
It wasn't a specific area to Humboldt or to an address, to a location. It was in the area.
Okay. But you noticed a lot of cameras that were along Brady Street, and you noted down the establishments that they were at, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, to your knowledge, well, let me ask you specifically, officer, did you actually follow up, or were you or let me back up 1 second, strike that. Were you given up a follow-up assignment of actually locating or retrieving cameras from each of these locations?
To retrieve the video surveillance? No, sir.
Okay. Your task was just to note them. Do you know if any other officer had followed up with some of these locations that are beyond, and let me be a little more specific here, that are beyond let's say Astor Street?
That'd be a question for the Detective Bureau. They took over this investigation.
Okay. So, to your knowledge, you're not sure if cameras beyond Astor Street were checked. What about Marshall Street?
Judge,
beyond
Your Honor
Marshall?
asked an answer. He says he doesn't know.
He said he didn't know. Sustained.
I asked him as to Astor Street, Judge. I'm just asking if that's the same as to Marshall Street and beyond as well.
Fine, but counsel, between this witness and all the other witnesses, we've made the point. The jury gets the point. It is time to move on, and we are going to move on.
Okay. Just want you to confirm, officer.
Answer if you can, officer.
Can you repeat your question?
Do you know, from your own knowledge, if any videos were followed up beyond Marshall Street going east on Brady?
Detective Bureau arrived on scene and took over this investigation, so I do not have knowledge of that.
Okay. Just a couple more questions. Do you know if there was a pole camera that you observed on the intersection of Brady and Humboldt?
Brady Street in Holton, there was a pole cam.
Right, that was the one that you did observe, and to your knowledge, the incident in this case was captured from that pole camera, right?
I'm not sure if it was captured.
Okay.
I notated that there was a camera there.
But as far as Humboldt and Brady, do you know if there's a camera there on that pole?
I do not know.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with Brady Street?
I'm semi-familiar with Brady Street.
Okay. I mean, besides on September 22nd, 2020, have you been there as a police officer before
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see.
Your Honor, I hate to do this, can we have a sidebar?
Yes, but I said last week, I'm tiring of the sidebars. I'm getting no less tired of them. I had a conversation with the attorney. The objection from the state's being sustained. The photo that the defense potentially wanted to use is not being shown. It's not relevant. We can make an additional record later. Let's ask questions and then let's move on.
Okay. Now, just a couple more follow-up questions, officer. So, with regard to Glorioso, you indicated that you had seen two cameras, one facing west side of the building and the other north side, right?
West side and north side, correct.
Say that again, officer. What was the answer?
The west side of the building and the north side of the building, sir.
And I believe you said that both of those face Brady Street, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on. Cross.
Thank you. Officer, you went down the street attempting to see if you could see any cameras, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether or not any of those cameras were working?
I never got to view the video surveillance.
So, are there some times where there could be a camera on a building and it's not working?
Yes.
Okay. Additionally, you stated that you went to Dynamite and it had a camera and that was covering only the door, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Only the front entrance?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Okay. And did you go in there by checking inside the restaurant or just looking at the camera?
Notating cameras in
So
the
you
area.
looked up at the camera and it was facing just basically not at the street but at the door?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Additionally, did you go and check with any of the people that may have had a Ring doorbell?
I notated that there's a Ring doorbell in the area in my report, yes.
Do you remember actually, in fact, knocking on a door of one of the addresses you just talked about and trying to see if she had any recordings?
My task was to notate video surveillance in the area for future follow-up.
United States Exhibit number 83, currently in the big screen, and it's going to be coming up here in a little bit.
Fine.
I have Officer Lorenzo Hernandez, correct?
Yes.
Okay. JR6, currently fired up on the computer, if it eventually ever acknowledges itself. there we go. And if we are looking here, just going back a little bit, and let's say starting at 1 minute and 4 seconds into the recording, was 8:30 one of the addresses you took a look at?
Yes.
Okay, and as we can see, that's a Ring doorbell, right?
Yes, in the video.
And on the video, we can actually see, you did more than just note it, didn't you? We got someone coming to the door.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to play from this portion at 1 minute and 6 seconds.
What exhibit is it again?
83, Your Honor, I apologize.
83.
Pausing at 1 minute and 13 seconds. We actually hear you say, sorry to bother you again, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you'd been there once, now you're coming back for a reason, right?
Correct.
Okay. Playing from 1 minute and 13 seconds into the recording.
Green camera, is it so that you are able to upload to like the cloud or anything there or something in the file?
We just actually registered on tonight after you guys left.
Okay.
So I don't think I can get any videos of that.
Okay, that's okay. When you do the video, like when it records, like how far out does it record? Does it record like every person that walks by?
I have it set just to like this front area, but it goes off every time a bus comes through.
Okay.
So
Does it actively record, or do you only get live view?
yeah, so I only get live view.
Okay.
Pausing at 1 minute and 47 seconds. So just so we're clear, we can see that you actually did follow up to see if you could get any video recording, at least from this one Ring video.
So this is my body camera, is that correct?
Yeah.
So I believe it was Officer Wilbur that said, so we're here to speak with you.
Hang on. Hold on.
Oh, sorry about that.
Take your time. Then you use your outer voice. Speak. Go ahead.
I believe it was Officer Wilbur that said, we're here to speak with you again. So I'm not sure if he may have made contact with the individual, or I don't recall if I was the individual that walked up to that door and knocked on that door. So it may have been Officer Wilbur, correct?
So at least what we have here, though, is both you and your partner checking up to see if maybe there was a recording, right?
Correct.
They don't have a recording at this Ring video, correct?
I believe she said it did not record.
It did not record. Your Honor, the state would move that portion of this video in evidence.
Received.
Nothing else, thank you.
Anything else from the defense?
Just a little bit. Now, Officer Hernandez, you said that that was actually the body camera of your partner, Officer Wilbur? No, he said it was.
No. That was my body camera.
But he was the one who was speaking on that clip that we saw?
So based on watching that clip, he stated that, I'm sorry, we have to come and speak with you again. So I believe he was the individual who may have knocked on there in the first, like initially. So based on just watching that brief clip, I probably went up there with him again. So
you guys did a thorough job with your task in terms of going down and noting all the locations, right, that were there on Brady Street going from Holton to Humboldt. You would agree with that, right?
what is your question? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
My question is, you did what you were supposed to do as part of your task, and then you handed, after noting,
Objection, leading.
Sustained. It's your witness. But let's get to the point. Again, we are really beating this dead horse over and over and over.
okay,
And I'm tired of the beatings going on.
just two more questions really briefly then, Judge. 830 East Brady. Can you confirm that it is basically west of Marshall Street?
It would be west of Marshall Street.
Can you point that out to us just by going up there?
Sure. Yeah. I can't make these out.
Sir, why don't you have a seat again? And answer the question, please, or make that statement, please.
Okay, is that 8:30?
Can't make the numbers out. Could you bring those up to me
Yeah.
again?
Do you see 830 East Brady Street marked there, officer?
That'd be approximately in that area.
Okay, so it's slightly east of Casablanca, is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay, and it's not near Dynamite or Glorioso's, right? It's maybe at least a block or a block and a half from those locations. Is that fair to say?
So the 830 would be west from the 1011.
Right,
East Brady.
so going back to D26, .830 East Brady Street would be right around here, right where I'm pointing, which is labeled near the Sherwin-Williams paint store.
On your diagram, some of the addresses are not notated, so I had to approximate in that area based on the cross street, or correction, based on the cross numbers that were there on your diagram.
Okay. And after you made all these notations, as you said, you then forward this over to the detectives, and that was the end of your responsibilities as to the cameras, right?
To my recollection, yes.
All right, thank you, nothing further.
Cross.
No.
All right, you can step down, officer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Stephanie Trotter.
Fine.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please be seated, state your full name, spelling first and last for the record.
Stephanie Trotter, Stephanie, Trotter, Trotter.
Good afternoon, Ms. Trotter.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell the members of the jury what you do for a living?
I'm a CNA. I've been a CNA since about 2014, but I've been in healthcare since 2008.
Okay, and I'm going to ask if you could just, when you speak, just speak a little closer into
Okay, sure.
the mic, just make sure we're catching. If you don't mind repeating your
So I'm a
occupation.
CNA, a certified nursing assistant. I've been doing that since about 2014, but I've been in healthcare since 2008.
Okay. And are you married?
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been married?
3 years, and I've been with my husband for 19 years.
Okay. And do you have kids?
Yes, I do, 6, and 2 grandchildren.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to bring your attention now to events that might have taken place on September 22nd of 2020.
Yes.
Does that date stand out to you for any reason?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And we just want to kind of just start back. Well, let's go here. Do you remember an incident that occurred on Brady Street or around that vicinity on or about September 22nd of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could just tell us who was with you on that evening?
So that evening, it would have been me, my husband, and my 7-year-old and my 2-year-old. He's 2 now, and he was 6 then.
Okay. And
the 7-year-old was 6 at the time, and then the 2-year-old was 1 at the time. So just 2 of the children was with me and my husband.
okay. And if you could tell the members of the jury, where were you coming from on that evening?
That evening, if I'm not mistaken, we were coming from Walgreens on Brady Street. But I'm not 100% sure, because we live in that area, so I can't really tell where we were coming from that night.
Okay. All right. Now, on the night of September 22nd, 2020, did anything stand out to you as you were coming along or traveling in that vicinity?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of car were you operating on that evening?
At the time, we had a 2012 Chevy Trailblazer.
Okay. We now could present what has been marked as Defense Exhibit 15. 25.
Madam Clerk, could we have the evidence control, please?
That's me that has that.
Oh, Judge?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Ms. Trotter, is this the vicinity that you recall being on the evening of September 22nd of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to, play parts of this video, and I would like to you to inform the members of the jury where and if you see your vehicle arrive in frame in this video. So, counsel, if you can jump to approximately 30 seconds or so. Oh, stop right there. Okay.
He went kind of fast.
Hang on. He has to ask a question.
Okay, counsel, if you wouldn't mind backing up maybe 10 seconds. Okay, go for it.
Shall I play it?
Yes.
Okay, playing at 20.8.
There's my vehicle.
Okay, can you stop right there, please? So, Ms. Trotter, are you identifying this red SUV as the vehicle you were operating on September 22nd of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And if you can continue?
Playing at 35.6.
And stop right there.
Stopping at 40.4.
Now, at this point, did anything come to your attention at the time you were driving by at this specific frame?
Yes.
And what is that?
While my husband was driving, I was on the passenger side. When I looked to the right, it looked like a woman was maybe in distress or something was going on.
Okay. And what did you do next?
So I was looking in the mirror as we kept driving, and I just told my husband, I think something's wrong, you should turn around.
Okay. And if you could continue, counsel?
Playing at 40.4.
So is that you hitting your brake lights at this point?
That's my husband, yes.
Okay.
I stopped it at 46.3.
Okay. You can continue?
Replaying.
Yes. And is that you taking a U-turn at this point?
That's my husband taking a U-turn, yes.
Yes. All right, and you're taking another U-turn, and what's happening at this time if you stop, counsel?
At this time, I see, like I said, I saw a woman. She was standing there, and from the way it looked, she was like in distress or something was going on. So I had my husband turn around just so I could see if it was something I could help with.
Okay. Counsel, continue, please.
Playing at 112.5.
And you stop right there, please. And what are we seeing occurring at the time that you pull, or your husband pulls aside what has been identified now as Ms. Cleereman?
I believe at that time I left the window down and I asked her, was she okay?
Okay. All right, and counsel, if you could continue playing the last part of this video.
Playing at 120.8. Said playing at 120.8.
Thank you.
Oh, we wanted.
Okay. Now, Ms. Trotter, I'm not going to be asking you questions that occurred after this video that's not captured on video.
Okay.
I want you to explain to the members of the jury, as your vehicle pulls up, you just indicated that you let your window down, correct?
That's correct.
And explain to the members of the jury what was said or what transpired up to that point.
I let the window down. The woman, she was like screaming and hollering. I asked her, was she okay? She said, no, someone just shot my fucking husband. So I stepped out the vehicle. My husband pulled in front of her vehicle and parked, and I approached her.
Okay, and did you observe anything else with Ms. Cleereman at the time that you approached her?
I could remember just standing there asking her, you know, did you call 911? She said no. So I began to call 911. She stayed on the phone, and you know, I talked back. I asked her the questions that the 911 operator was asking me, and then that's pretty much how.
Okay, I want to stop real quick. You said somebody stayed on the phone.
Ms. Cleereman was on her telephone speaking with someone, and I called 911 and began to speak to the 911 operator.
Okay, so are you saying that Ms. Cleereman was on the phone at the time that you approached her?
Yes, I could hear her saying like, Anna, he shot my fucking husband, he shot my fucking husband, and she said it maybe like 3 times. Like, you know, like, I don't know if, yeah, she said it like 3 times, so.
Now, so did she appear to be on the phone with Anna at the time that you volunteered to call 911?
She was on the phone already with Anna when I began to call 911.
And what happened next?
So I called 911, I kind of explained our location and what his wife had said to me, and just let them know where we were. I believe they asked if the victim was still breathing, and was there anything she can do to walk us through like CPR or something to that nature? It was something to those words, and I like communicated to the wife, you know, what the 911 operator was saying. She answered what she could, and then that's kind of how it went.
Okay. Now, can you describe to the members of the jury, where was Ms. Cleereman at during the time of this 911 call that you were on?
So on Holton and Brady, it's like some steps. And if you approach the steps, walking towards the steps, Ms. Cleereman would have been on this side, which would have been like to the far left.
You could talk in the mic a little bit.
She was in like to the far left of where the opening was on the steps. Then the victim was like laid right here, and then I was standing like right outside the opening.
Okay. And was Ms. Cleereman still on the phone at this point?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And you indicated that you were on the phone with 911.
Correct.
And they were giving you instructions as to measures to try to save or rehabilitate Mr. Cleereman's life at this point?
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated that you provided this information to Ms. Cleereman. Is that right?
Correct.
Was she responsive to any of the instructions that were provided?
I believe when the 911 operator asked if we needed to do CPR, instructions on how to do CPR, I believe she said like, he's already gone. Something to that nature.
Okay. And what else did you observe about Ms. Cleereman's actions?
At that time, she was kind of like standing up on the phone away from the body, but you know, she was just kind of like standing there and still on the phone, and I was trying to get through the 911 call.
Okay. And what happened next?
After the 911 call ended, she kind of like kneeled down towards her husband and was like trying to go through his pocket, his right pocket. And I think I said to her like, you probably shouldn't be doing that. And her words were, "This is my fucking husband." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I understand, but you probably shouldn't be doing that."
Could you describe when you said that she was going through his pocket? Can you describe to the members of the jury what her actions appeared to look like when she was going through that pocket?
Could I stand up?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, what was the question?
Should I stand up to demonstrate or just stay seated?
No, don't stand up. Just answer the question verbally first, please.
So she was kind of like kneeled down towards his body and like trying to go towards the pocket area. But I don't think she could get to the pocket that she was trying to get to.
Okay, can you demonstrate what you mean by going to the pocket? Like, what were her hands doing?
Like almost a lift position, if you may. Like, you know, like a shove almost.
Okay. And you specified the right pocket, correct?
Correct, because that would have been the pocket that was closer to her.
Okay. And you sure it wasn't a back pocket or any other pocket?
I never seen her go in the back pocket.
And what happened next?
By then, she's standing there, and you know, I'm just asking her like, "Are you okay?" And she just was at that time she had started to become like hysterical, like, "Oh my God, you know, my husband, oh my God." And then that's pretty much it. The fire department started coming. So as the fire department approached, I kind of, you know, I went on about my way.
Okay. Now, who was present at the time that you saw Ms. Cleereman going through Mr. Cleereman's pocket?
It was me, the victim, and the wife.
Okay. Now, did you talk to a detective after seeing what you saw on that evening?
Yes.
And what information did the detective ask you about based off of what you kind of witnessed or experienced on September 22nd?
I believe he just asked me like, what did I observe, what happened, and then if I had any more questions or concerns that I could contact them.
Okay.
And that was it.
So at the time that the detective, you know, kind of expressed that to you, did you provide him this information?
Yes.
Okay. And you also indicate that, okay, so what happened? So after you talked to the detective, that was the detective on the scene, is that correct? Or?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. And did you get his name?
No, I did not.
Okay. And you end up, what happened later on that evening? Did you just go home, or what took place after leaving the scene?
Well, I went home. I started getting my children ready for bed. The detective called, I spoke with him. And then like later on that night, it was just kind of bothering me what I have observed. So I decided to call the homicide unit.
I want to stop for a second, Ms. Trotter. You said something was bothering you. Can you explain what that something was to the members of the jury?
It was the wife's demeanor. I mean, like, she wasn't consoling him. I don't know if that's the right word, but her bending down and going through the pocket was kind of suspicious and weird to me. So that kind of stuck with me.
Okay. And did you communicate that to a detective later that evening?
Yes, I did.
And how did you communicate that information to a detective?
I called the homicide unit.
And how did you get in contact with the homicide unit?
I called them on my own. I got the number and I called.
Can you tell the members of the jury approximately what time you called the homicide unit that evening?
It could have been anywhere from 10:30 that night to after 11.
And what was the homicide unit's response to once you provided this information to them?
So I called the homicide unit and I kind of explained to the person that answered, you know, who I was and why I was calling. And they told me to hold on. And another guy got on the phone. He described himself, but I didn't. I'm sorry, which part do you need? Okay, so I called the homicide unit. A person answered. I spoke with him and kind of told him why I was calling, and they told me to hold on for a second. Then another person got on the phone. He said, this is whatever he said his name was, and I explained to him the situation again, what I had observed and where it was at and why I was calling.
And Ms. Trotter, can you explain to the members of the jury what was his response?
He said, thank you for the information, have a good night, or something to that nature.
Ms. Trotter, did anyone from the Milwaukee Police Department at all ever follow up with you in regards to the statements that you made on that evening?
Never.
Ms. Trotter, it's almost a year and a half later. Has the state ever contacted you regarding any statements or any observations that you made regarding...
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained. It's a police investigation.
Ms. Trotter, has anyone solicited your statements or your testimony today? Has the defense counsel ever contacted you to...
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
It's also vague. Sustained. Anyone? Counsel said, does anyone done that?
Ms. Trotter, has anyone representing Mr. Edgecomb, myself, Anika Mott, has either of us solicited your statements today for the testimony that you provided?
Objection.
No.
Ms. Trotter.
It was answered, but let's move on.
Ms. Trotter, can you explain how did you come to provide this information relevant to this case today?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
And it's been asked and answered. She's already explained the whole thing. Sustained. Move on.
Ms. Trotter, I'm showing you now what has been marked as Defense Exhibit number 29. Ms. Trotter, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the area that I approached the night that I seen Miss Cleereman in distress.
Now publishing what has been marked as Defense 29. We give state access. We need access to the media on the state side. So,
Judge, you gotta flip over evidence control.
and then also while we're doing that, I also want to show you, Ms. Trotter. Does this appear to be the end part of that same area?
Yes.
So, Ms. Trotter, is this what you just testified to as the area that you encountered Mrs. Cleereman, the deceased in this case, Mr. Jason Cleereman, on September 22nd, 2020?
Yes.
And is this the entrance area to that same area in which you encountered Mr. and Mrs. Cleereman on that evening?
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Cross?
One moment. How you doing today, ma'am?
How you doing?
So I just got a couple questions for you. I'm just going to go through it here in terms of what you saw that night. You didn't see the incident, did you?
No, I did not.
You didn't see who the shooter was?
No, I did not.
You didn't see anything regarding the altercation at issue between the man who shot the victim and what happened between those two people?
No, I did not.
Okay. And then, just to be very clear, you stated that when you were talking about Mrs. Cleereman and she's by her husband's body, you stated she couldn't get into the pocket, correct?
No, she could not.
You never saw her take anything out, right?
No, I did not.
Never saw her put anything in?
No, I did not.
Never saw anything in her hand?
Oh, hold on.
I apologize for getting too quickly. I was on a roll.
Yeah.
Roll or otherwise, take your time, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have way too many Diet Cokes. Now, just so we're clear, ma'am, you never saw anything in her hands, right?
Nothing but her cell phone.
So whatever she was doing, doesn't appear that she actually handled anything, right? You never saw her handle anything.
I never saw her handle anything.
Never saw her take anything from anywhere else or move anything else. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, what you just talked about, you stated you later called a homicide detective.
Yes, I did.
Did you mention it during the 911 call?
No, I didn't. That's why I called the homicide unit.
Understood. My question is, did you mention it during the 911 call?
No, I did not.
Okay. And I've got your 911 call here. I'm just going to play it here for a little bit. Let's play, in Your Honor, for the record, this is State's Exhibit number 39. This is the 911 call, and I'm going to play it here in the beginning and tell me if you recognize it, okay?
Okay.
All right. I'm going to play from the ooh, I'm going to need to get a little bit more volume there. Play from 1 second in the recording. Of course, it's not working now. Pausing at 9 seconds. Do you recognize that voice?
Yes, I do.
That's you, right?
That's me.
Okay. And playing from 9 seconds into that recording.
He's talking dead in the head, on the bridge. His wife is here.
All right, repeat that intersection.
We on Brady and Hudson, I believe it is. It's like a place called College. You might agree on Brady and Hudson.
Down the line, I'm going to connect you to the medical help and I'll hang up. Did you see the person that did this?
No, his wife is here. She seen everything. Hey, Hudson. I think they called him.
Milwaukee Fire Department, where is the emergency?
Hi, operator 51, intersection of Brady and Holton. A man was shot in the head.
Thank you, police caller. This is the fire department. We're already en route now. Are you with the patient?
Yes, his wife is here. She is very hysterical, and he is here.
Oh.
Okay, pausing in 1 minute and 2 seconds, you stated that his wife is there. She's hysterical, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, just so we're talking about, how you saw her reacting in the moments after her husband's been shot in the head, she's hysterical.
Correct.
I mean, did it appear she'd been traumatized?
You could say that.
Okay, I mean, she's consistent with having just seen someone she's married to shot in front of her eyes, correct?
At that time, yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to play from that moment at 1 minute and 2 seconds.
Okay, are you with her?
She's with him. Yes, I'm feeling like away.
Okay, can you tell if he's awake or breathing or anything?
She was just trying to talk to him, but I don't think he responded.
So he asks you about information about whether or not the person's alive or dead, right?
Correct.
And you stated she was trying to talk to him, right?
Yes.
Just so you're saying that you previously testified that it appeared she didn't seem to really care, but here you have her talking to him, asking him, right?
Well,
Is that what we just heard?
yes, but
Okay,
not-
thank you.
yes.
Now in terms,
And this is cross. You'll get a chance to follow up.
now she's
Mr.
asking,
Lamar, knock off the insulting behavior towards the court. Knock it off.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, ma'am, she's talking, she's trying to address her dead husband. He's not responding. He's gone, right?
She was responding to whoever was on the phone with her, and she was saying,
Ma'am, that's not what we just heard on the 911 call, is it?
well, I mean, it was different.
Ma'am, that's not what we just heard on the
That's not what you heard on the 911 call, but I was present.
I get that. So
Okay.
you're on the 911 call and they're asking you for up-to-date information. And they say, you know, are you with them? And you tell them she's talking to him and he's not responding, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, playing from that portion at 1 minute and 12 seconds.
He said he was trying to hit, but I was point blank.
Okay. So are you close enough or
Is he breathing? She said, no, she's sure he's dead.
You just asked, is he breathing? And she says, no, he's dead, right?
Correct.
Okay. Playing from that portion at 1 minute and 22 seconds into the recording.
Okay, did she say she give me out? Because we can give him CPR. He's not
He
breathing.
said, do you think he did CPR? He said he tried to. She said she don't think so.
Okay, the fire department is already on the way. Ma'am, finish with the police.
Okay, ma'am, did you say you didn't see who this is?
No, I didn't see it, but she was here. If his wife did, she said his name. She said he was on a bicycle.
He was on a bicycle?
She said the guy that shot him was on a bike.
And what direction did he go in? You don't know?
No, I didn't see it. I just seen, well, I was riding past, and I seen her just, very hysterical one at the court, so I had pulled over and stuff, and she started telling me what happened. So I just called 911, so I don't know.
Now, you stated you pulled over, asked her what happened, and you called 911. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, Your Honor, the state would move that portion of State's Exhibit number 39 in evidence.
Received.
All right. Now, moving on to State's Exhibit number 83. Do you remember getting a phone call from an officer that night?
I do.
Okay. An officer actually called you that night, didn't he?
That's correct.
Okay. And you talked to him about what you saw. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Get to 6 minutes and 3 seconds. Your Honor, the state we're going back to what's previously been played as Officer Nebraska's body cam, but we're going now forward to 6 minutes and 3 seconds into the recording. Ma'am, playing from that
Hang on. What exhibit is this?
Oh, State's Exhibit number 83.
83. Fine.
Officer Nebraska's recording. We previously played an earlier portion from this with a different witness. We've now moved up to 6 minutes and 3 seconds into the recording. I'm going to play from this portion, ma'am. Hopefully I got the timing right.
Okay.
Hi, this is Officer Nebraska with the Milwaukee Police Department.
Actually, I'm going to go back just a little bit because I didn't time it right. I apologize, ma'am.
Okay.
5 minutes and 58 seconds into the recording.
Hi, is this Stephanie? Hi, this is Officer Nebraska with the Milwaukee Police Department.
Pausing at 6 minutes and 7 seconds. Is that you?
I'm Stephanie Trotter, yes.
So that was you on the phone that this officer is calling. Is that correct?
Correct.
You recognize your voice?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to play from that portion at 6 minutes and 7 seconds into the recording.
You called about some shots fired over by Brady and Van Buren earlier?
Yeah, I didn't call when the shots were fired. I called when we were riding past and the lady like dragging people down for help, so we pulled over.
Okay. Has anybody talked to you yet about this, or?
No.
Okay.
Pausing at 6 minutes and 26 seconds. If I'm not mistaken, with defense counsel, you had stated that you had stayed on scene and spoke to a detective. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Oh, then maybe I misunderstood. This is the first time anybody talks to you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so you didn't remain on scene, did you?
When the fire department came, I left.
You left. Okay. I totally misunderstood. I thought that they were trying to say he's talked to a detective on the scene. You went home, didn't you?
Correct.
You didn't stay on the scene.
No, I did not.
So this is the first time an officer actually calls you and he's following up. Like, hey, we got you as a 911 call. I want to talk to you about what happened. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry about that. I
No,
totally
that's
misunderstood
okay.
his question earlier. Now, going to 6 minutes and 27 seconds into the recording. I'm going to play from that portion, ma'am.
Okay.
Do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Can I start by getting your information, ma'am? What's your...
Now, they get down your information. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm not going to put all your personal information out
Thank
there.
you.
No problem. Don't need to do that. But let me just move forward just a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Moving forward to, I think it's 6 minutes and 55 seconds if my horrible notes are right. Let me just play from this portion. I wasn't right. Let me move forward a little bit more, ma'am. I'm sorry. 7 minutes and 2 seconds.
And this phone number that I called, is this the best way to contact you? Okay. You said you were driving by and a female flagged you down for this?
She was like, you could tell something was wrong when we was riding past. I see her like waving and running back to like where his body was laying at. So, I think we ended up pulling over, and when I pulled over, I could see his legs was like I got out hanging. I'm like, is everything okay? She's like, no, somebody just shot my fucking husband in his head. So I'm standing there, she's like, can you please call 911? She's like, I'm so, she was just shaking her really bad. So I called 911 and somebody else must have seen what was.
Now, ma'am, you're talking to Officer Nebraska right there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you're talking about the manner in which you came to call 911. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you basically just stated that she was too shaken to call 911, so you called for her, correct?
I asked her, has she called 911? She said no, so I called. Yes.
She's hysterical, correct?
She is.
And you're talking to Officer Nebraska about the manner in which you called 911. You state, you ask her if she called 911, she's hysterical, she asks you to call 911, and you do for her, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, when you're, that night, when you're talking to the officers, fresh in your memory, fresh as to what happened, you're telling the officer that the reason you called 911 was because she was too upset and she asked you to call 911 for her.
That is correct.
Okay. Playing from 7 minutes and 42 seconds into the recording, and I'll see if I can do it a little better here.
He was just asking the lady, like, is he really sure? She was like, yes, he fucked and shot her. And so, the guy, I can hear him talking to 911 too. I guess he's talking to you guys at the same time or whatever.
And then, did you just mention that there was another guy on 911 talking to 911?
It was.
So there was another guy.
He was standing directly across the street from where we were.
Okay, so there was another guy that you saw across the street also talking to 911.
That is correct.
Okay, don't know who he was.
I don't know who he was.
Okay, so previously when we were talking with defense counsel about who was around the body when you're talking to 911, body was there, Mrs. Cleereman was there, you were there, your husband's in the car, and there's another 911 caller across the street.
Yes.
Okay. All right, playing from 7 minutes and 58 seconds.
She was just very hysterical. I was just letting her know that they said that the ambulance was on the way. And I seen the ambulance coming, so I left because I had my kids in the car.
Okay. And you had your kids in the car, right?
That is correct.
And she was hysterical, correct?
She was scared. She was.
And you were just trying to get her help, right?
That's correct.
And that's why you called 911.
That is correct.
And I just want to be clear in regards to what we're describing. When you're talking to this officer and he's asking you about what you saw, about with the wife, and what you saw about, you don't mention anything about her being by the body and kind of somewhere around his pants, do you?
At that time, no.
You didn't mention it?
No, I did not.
Okay. And also, even what you're testifying here today, you saw her down by the pants. You never actually saw an object come out or go in or go anywhere near his pants, did you?
I did not.
You don't know what she was doing, do you?
I don't know what she was doing, but no, I don't know what she was doing.
And she was hysterical, wasn't she?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained. Was asked and answered.
Many times. I apologize. Thank you. I got no further questions, ma'am. And Your Honor, the state would move this portion that's been played in evidence at this time.
Fine. That portion only is received. Any follow-up?
Now, Ms. Trotter, you indicated that when you called 911, that you weren't in the vicinity of Ms. Cleereman at the time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Wait a minute, rephrase that. Rephrase it.
You weren't in the direct vicinity of Ms. Cleereman at the time that you were on the phone with 911, correct?
Yes, I was, you know how the opening is? I was standing like right outside of it and she was to the far left of him.
Okay. So your testimony is that Ms. Cleereman is by Mr. Cleereman's body and you're on the outside by the opening on the phone with 911, correct?
That is correct.
Ms. Trotter, were your eyes on Ms. Cleereman the entirety of while you're on the phone with 911?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Now, when you indicated that you couldn't tell whether she received, whether she got something out the pocket or anything like that.
Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterization of the statement. She said she never saw anything. Not that she couldn't say what it was. She never saw anything.
That was my understanding, but you can clarify.
You can clarify, Ms.
I never saw anything.
Okay. So you don't know whether something was taken out, put in, or anything at the time.
Objection, Your Honor. Leading mischaracterization of the statement. She never saw anything.
Hang on. It was leading. It's your witness, counsel. Go ahead.
Can you confirm whether or not anything was taken out of the pants pocket or put inside the pants pocket?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. Ask her if she saw anything. Confirming or not, this is speculation.
It's speculation. I think it's also been asked and answered. I'll let you ask it one more time, and then we're moving on.
Can you describe anything that you could confirm regarding the pocket as Ms. Cleereman was next to it at the time you're on the phone with 911?
Yes, honestly, I just thought it was weird that she was, you know, like, I don't want to say rambling, but like going towards his right pocket.
Now, Ms. Trotter, you indicated, I want to present again what's been marked as Defense 29. Now, do you remember, you indicated that you remember this area, correct?
That's correct.
And is this area appear, how would you describe the size of it? Small,
Objection,
large,
Your Honor.
how would you
Outside.
describe it?
This area is outside the scope of cross-examination.
Your Honor, she testified earlier about her knowledge of being there at that place where Mr. and Mr. Cleereman was at the time.
She did during direct, but not during cross.
Overruled. Make it brief.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Would you describe this area as being small or a confined area?
It's a small area.
Okay. And
Just to clarify, we're talking about the exhibit? Is that what we're talking about?
yes, we're talking about that area where Mr. Cleereman would have been laying at that time, correct?
It's a small area.
Okay. And did you have occasion to look at the stairs that go down to that area?
Yes.
And how would you describe those stairs that go down to that area? Were they steep?
Like steep.
Were they... Okay. No further questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
All right, you can step down, ma'am. Thank you.
29 into evidence.
Was that the photo that's up?
Correct.
Fine, received. I thought it was in already, but received. All right, well, she's stepping out. Who's the defense next witness?
Judge, we need to see who's out. We did send out a lot of subpoenas. One witness is sick, and we may need to have a substitute for them tomorrow morning. That's what the medical examiner told us. But we did
Well,
subpoena.
take 2 minutes, step in the hallway, see if somebody's here. I want this to continue to move forward. Take a minute.
So Judge, one of our witnesses is coming through security right now. The other witness is available, but there is an issue that has to be dealt with before. So we would just ask for a 5-minute recess.
All right, we'll take a 10-minute recess. Can my bailiffs lead the jury out? 10 or 15 minutes, leave your notepads where they are. Everybody else can remain seated, please. All right, the jury's out. Brief recess, 10 minutes off the record.